Gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air on a Wednesday here in the Quad Cities, Wednesday, March 19th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It is a gloomy, rainy, stormy, eventually snowy day here in the Quad Cities. So good day to stay inside and talk a little sports, and we're glad that you chose to do just that. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. Up to 775 subscribers. Looking to get our way to 800, hopefully by the end of this week. So if you are watching there and you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you have subscribed, please tell a friend or two or 100 to help us out, because we're excited about what we've started here in the Quad Cities. A lot of great support, a lot of great viewers, a lot of people that say they watch this thing every day. So we definitely appreciate that. We're also live on X. Believe it or not, yesterday over 3,000 people viewed this show on X. I credit that to Brian Stocking. The handsome devil himself was on for the first time, so I think it's Stockpile that deserves a lot of the credit for that. But no, yesterday's show was awesome. Go check it out if you missed it. We talked with one of the owners of the Quad City Steamwheelers in the house here at the Randazzo estate. Doug Brend came out. The Wheelers open up on Friday against Green Bay. Great conversation with him. Get down there. Check out the home opener this Friday against Green Bay. I promise you, if you take your kids, head down as a family and check out some awesome football on Friday night, you'll leave impressed, and you'll come back again later this season. So great to catch up with Doug Brend. Also had Kyle Huseman from the Hawkeye Report talking about the Iowa women. We had Jayliana Guy, a young lady that played at Bettendorf for freshman season, going to Clinton next year, already committing to play basketball at Stanford. A very, very impressive young lady. Check out that interview. And then, as we mentioned, Brian Stocking was here, still trying to figure out what he was talking about the majority of the time. But Stockpile himself was in the house. That's worth the go and the watch and the view, and go watch that again. So go check out yesterday's show. Coming up on today's show, super excited because everybody's talking about this Iowa coaching search. Iowa swings and misses when it comes to Darren DeVries. Who's next? What's the latest? Well, our guy, my good friend Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report, is moments away with the latest, and we'll talk about other possibilities now that Darren DeVries is the new head basketball coach in the Big Ten at Indiana and not at the University of Iowa. Also coming up later in hour number one, Jake Brend from WOI in Des Moines, also with Everywhere Iowa. They're here to talk some Iowa State women's and men's basketball. Bill Fenley and company in action tonight in their first four. So we got a lot to get to with Jake Brend. And then I'm really excited about hour number two. I've got a good friend of mine, T-Roy, co-host of the old Don't Hassle Us, We're Local show here in the Quad Cities, with his first mock draft of the NFL season. The NFL draft is 36 days away. So you get through March Madness, you got opening day of the baseball season, and then you turn around and the NFL draft is here as well. Great time of year. Throw in the Masters and WrestleMania, and it's just an awesome time of year. So we got T-Roy coming up in hour number two of the show. How about this for tomorrow real quick? Rob Brooks, the voice of Iowa women's basketball, and Matt Drinkle, the brand new head coach of the Central Michigan Chippewas. He will be joining us on tomorrow's show. Bettendorf native, really, really good dude. So tomorrow is already stacked as well. And also, before we get to our first guest, make sure you're taking part in the OTA Bracket Challenge. I'm really excited to do this. Thankful to my sponsors for allowing me to do it, but go online, go to all my social media. The link is right there. It's a CBS Sportsline link. Go fill out your bracket. It's absolutely free. You get in there, the winner gets a dozen enchiladas and a large chips and salsa from the man himself, Snoop. Also, a $20 gift card to Hungry Hobo and a large specialty or 3-topping pizza from Godfather's Pizza. I have the best sponsors. Super thankful for what they do. Adding to them later this week and next week as well. More sponsors are jumping on board, and we'd love that as well. So make sure when you're running around for March Madness, you're stopping by Godfather's and grabbing yourself some pizza to watch some basketball, or grabbing yourself some subs from Hungry Hobo, or go get my guy Snoop and get a big Mexican spread of chips and salsa and enchiladas when you watch basketball this weekend as well. So I'm excited about all those. Also excited about my first guest. I finally get to catch up with a very busy man these days. Tommy, first and foremost, can I hear you and can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, I love it. I love it. The sweet sounds of Tom Kakert on a Wednesday morning.
Hey, I know why, by the way, I know why your viewership went up yesterday. The ladies tune in for Stockpile.
They love them. They love them. I mean, it's just like, I couldn't figure out why, and then it hit me over the head. It's like, that's why. I mean, it left a bump on my head because it just hit me really hard. That's why it was Brian Stocking. So he was a lot of fun. He's amazing, man. You know him. He's like, tell him yesterday on the show, I'd say, hey, who won the national championship in 1997? Boom. He'd tell me the national championship game, what happened, all that kind of stuff. He's one of a kind. So we'll leave Stockpile to yesterday and talk to you because it's been a crazy, 24 hours, 48 hours in the world of Iowa basketball. Tommy, yesterday morning, I was thinking Darren DeVries is coming home and he's going to be the Iowa head coach. What happened yesterday morning during the day yesterday that leads to Darren DeVries being announced as the Hoosiers' new head basketball coach at Indiana?
You know, it's one of those things where the number one thing that he had going for him was availability. And he was available, where other candidates that Indiana was going to look at. And you know, I reported right from the beginning that Darren DeVries was one of the 3 candidates that Indiana was was interested in. So if you've been reading my updates, you knew that was kind of something that was percolating at least a little bit. But it seemed like maybe that had died off, and maybe he was, just kind of, I wouldn't say ghosting them, but just kind of not engaged with them as much. And you saw the other reports where, from Jeff Goodman and people like that, were Ben McCollum and Brad Brownell. Both those guys are working this week. Darren DeVries is not. On Monday morning, the Mountaineer team decided not to play in postseason. They had to make a decision that morning whether they were going to play in the Crown or not, and they decided not to play. So that opened Darren up, and he kind of went 0 dark 30. Kind of wasn't in the office, so there's a lot of rumblings that he may have been talking to Iowa that day, may have been talking to Indiana too, and so he, kind of made his decision. And here's the thing. Indiana just has more to offer for what coaches are looking for today. And they're not looking, salary is kind of the secondary thing. It is the salary that they can offer players to get talent that is paramount for all these coaches today. And Indiana is probably going to be at least $7 million, which is on the upper end of things for offering coaches to be able to, get their roster taken care of. So Iowa can't match that. Iowa's probably, 3.5, probably somewhere around there in a comfortable way. And it was 1.5 this past year. And that might be stretching it, but I think it's 1.5. That's kind of what I've been told. So it was, NIL makes decisions easier. You can just look at the dollars and cents. And here's the other thing, what Indiana wants to do and what Iowa should want to do. March 24th, which is Monday, is the day when the portal opens up. So you're going to want to have a coach ready to go because you're going to want to go shopping.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing right now is from Iowa's perspective is they're going to maybe want to get this done sooner rather than later because they're going to have to be prepared for the portal. And that's something that wasn't there 15 years ago where you had to rush to get to portal day because, the aisles might be emptying out by that point, and plus you've got your own guys. They've had 4 guys go in. I don't think Brock or Owen are going to come back, but Price Sanford left the door open. Josh Dix, at least as of this moment, hasn't entered the portal yet, but he has got monster opportunities out there. So there's other guys that might enter as well. So, they've got to – there's got to be a little more, I think, sense of urgency at this point. But one of the guys that you're going to want to talk to is Ben McCollum, and he's working Thursday night. So if Drake loses to Mizzou, boy, I'd be doing everything I can to get a meeting with him on Friday or Saturday and get that thing nailed down if that's your top choice.
We're going to talk about the top choices in a second, and if not Ben who. But yeah, you mentioned it, Tom. If you're an Iowa fan, you're rooting for Missouri this week. You want to see Missouri win on Thursday, or at least Drake lose on Saturday to get this thing streamlined. And you mentioned the portal is a huge thing. I will mention I've talked to several people that know the situation. You mentioned Owen's not coming back. We know there's speculative offers out there. Owen's going to make a lot of money, and he's a hot commodity in the transfer portal. We know that. If anyone doesn't think Brock Harding's not a hot commodity or a wanted player in the transfer portal, they're fools. They're stupid. Like the people on social media that laughed and joked of like, oh, enjoy Augie, enjoy Ambrose, mid-major. I know it was kind of in jest, but you're an idiot. I can tell you here right now, Tom, that Brock Harding has several really good opportunities and options when it comes to where he's going to finish his college career. I'd expect it hopefully sooner than later. But, those are 2 guys that aren't coming back to the University of Iowa. We all kind of know that. But you just mentioned the transfer portal. People want to get rolling with it. They don't want to wait and see. So Brock with some really good opportunities and options for the next 2 seasons as well. When you look at Iowa now and you look at what's next, Ben McCollum is that guy. I want to start with him because, I've seen so much today of like, it's Ben or bust. Like, we better get Ben. I've had Iowa fans text me mad, like, it better be Ben. Is it Ben? And how can it not be Ben? Just your thoughts of Ben McCollum and the next step for the University of Iowa.
Here's your fly in the ointment, Matt, that might be amusing to some people, but at least I find it kind of interesting. So when Ben McCollum was at D2 Northwest Missouri State, early on in his career, you know who his athletic director was? His athletic director was a guy named Ren Baker, who is the athletic director at West Virginia University.
Oh,
guess who's looking for a head coach right now?
And probably has more NIL money to offer.
Yeah, and they have a relationship. I mean, they're friends. I think he talked to Ren Baker before he hired Darren DeVries too. I think I don't know if he interviewed, but at least he spoke to him about the job. So just an interesting thing that I discovered a few days ago that I mentioned that they had that relationship.
Tommy,
so,
you're not making Iowa fans feel any better.
I'm not, but it's just something to monitor, and because I fully expect that the Mountaineers are going to be after him too. I think they will.
Will the draw to coming home, being an Iowa guy, be more than a relationship with an athletic director. It's funny because on social media, on X, the last 24 hours, there's been banter back and forth between Iowa fans, Indiana fans, West Virginia fans. What's the better job? All that kind of stuff. So I guess I'll ask you, Tom, what's a better job, Iowa or West Virginia right now? Or are they very, very similar?
I think they're close. I always default to which conference has a better media rights deal and can provide you with more resources on paper, and that is the Big Ten. It's better than the Big 12, just is. So from that perspective, I think Iowa is a better job. Now, West Virginia seems to have better NIL resources right now, and Iowa is going to have to address that. I mean, they just have, you cannot expect to be successful in the game of college basketball and be a program that's in the NCAA tournament on a regular basis and competing for conference titles or even upper half of the conference if you don't have a good level of NIL. Just look at the last 2 years for Iowa men's basketball when they didn't have all the resources that other schools had in terms of NIL. You have seen the overall performance level drop. It's just how it is. So you've got to, it's a flashing red light that they have got to figure out a way to get more resources financially into the hands of their players. And that's what this is. And then you go out and you sell those players. But a lot of times it's just highest bidder plus comfort equals home, you know? So if the money's kind of equal, but the opportunity for playing time is better at one place, guess what? You'll go there. So
it evens the playing field, Tommy. It evens the playing field.
Yes, it does. So, and I'm not talking like exorbitant amounts of money, but I'm just talking about kind of being competitive in the upper middle class of financial resources. And that's kind of where I think Iowa needs to be, because I think they'll get a good tactical coach. So, if it's Ben McCollum, Ben's a terrific coach. There's nobody that's going to argue that you don't win 4 national titles at the D2 level by being an average coach. You don't win the Valley in your first year by being an average coach. He is an above average tactician. He understands the game. He's a good coach. It is a different style of basketball that Iowa fans are going to have to adjust to. I mean, they're not going to be like the Fran teams if it's Ben McCollum, where they get the ball out of the net and it's running up the floor. They're a snail. They're going to walk it up. They're going to run the clock. They're going to pass the ball around, move it, and then get a shot late off of some mid ball screen sets that they like to run.
Is Tommy, and talk about that for a little more, because I think there's that perception is that it's Todd Licklider 2.0, and I don't, just doing some research and looking at his D2 teams and all that kind of stuff. It's a slower pace. How would you answer the question that it's really, really slow, or it's Todd Licklider slow? Is it that equivalent, or is it maybe not as bad as what it was with Lick back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be that comparison. What matters the most when it comes to pace of play is winning basketball games. That's what they have to do. They have to win and find somebody who can win. And if it's 52-50 and you're winning, everybody's happy, winning. So it's always funny. The pendulum always swings different ways with different things. You want what's interesting though, and I heard somebody bring this up the other day, is Tom Davis the last Iowa basketball coach that Iowa fans really, really, really liked?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I think people liked Fran, but I don't know that they loved Fran like they loved TD.
I think they liked
all for
Fran at the beginning.
What's that?
They liked Fran at the beginning, I think, because he was different, he was new, he was exciting. But Fran's, and this isn't bashing Fran, but Fran's a Philly guy. Fran's personality
he's East Coast, man. He's East Coast.
Yeah, he's not a Midwest guy, and I don't know if Iowa fans ever did relate to that. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but it's just a little different. And he was always, East Coast guys have a little different swagger, a little different,
Got an edge to him.
Yes,
got an edge to him.
Yes,
and I think some of the older fans probably did. Well, I know this because some of them told me this over the years. They didn't like his sideline demeanor all the time.
Which I'm going to miss. That was one of the things I'm going to miss. Yeah. Okay, Tommy, so the Ben or bust stuff is out there. Before we talk about other candidates, kind of talk about the importance of, because it's obvious, Ben McCollum is Iowa's top candidate right now. He has to be. Beth Getz can't go 0 for 2, can she?
Well, you can always go 0 for 2.
I get that, but it's not a good look if she goes 0 for 2, right?
Yeah, it was send off some warning signs, but perhaps that will be necessary to get NIL. But maybe this sent the warning sign. The Darren DeVries thing sent the warning sign that, hey, we're going to just have to find a way to pony up NIL that's going to win a guy over to where they're not questioning coming to Iowa and get it up there. Fran said at his last press conference at the Big Ten tournament game against Illinois, and I can't remember who asked it. I'd love to attribute it to somebody. It might have been Halas, but I'm not positive. Might have been Doc, but just like what you need to be at NIL wise to feel like you can compete, and he said $6 million. So
yeah,
he would know.
It's what it needs to be, and hopefully.
Fran was not one to exaggerate those numbers either. He's just not. I've been around him enough. I know he's not going to exaggerate them.
With that being said, Tom, I know that Iowa made a run at it. Were you surprised when they got to the table and it got down to, I guess I'd just say if you were, but I'm surprised that if it got down to that being your guy, and the only thing standing in the way was a little more NIL, that they stood their ground with where the NIL was instead of figuring out a way to make it different. Does that make any sense? I'm surprised that they stood their ground, or they were, I don't want to say stubborn. Stubborn's a bad word to use, but it seems like they're sticking to their number of what NIL is going to be at Iowa.
Yes and no. Maybe they just feel like that's not available.
It's hard to find money sometimes, Bottom line is the bottom line. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah, and maybe they've shaken the trees all they can, and that's all that's there right now. Maybe some other people will be, I don't know, encouraged or inspired might be the right word to give more now. Perhaps there'll be some more NIL gifts. I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch moving forward.
Okay, Tommy, let's say Ben McCollum doesn't happen. Dun, dun, dun. Who is on that list of who's next at the University of Iowa?
You know the name we were kicking around this morning?
Yes.
What about Ryan Bowen?
It's an interesting name, Tom. For people who don't know what Ryan Bowen's up to, and everybody remembers him as a player from Fort Madison, what's his career path been like right now? What's he doing right now?
What you're seeing a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of, but there's some guys that are having some success doing this, like the BYU coach, the NBA guy. Ryan Bowen's been an assistant for the Denver Nuggets for several years. Won a world championship under Coach Michael Malone, and coached their summer league team a couple summers ago. I think I was out there that summer. I got to make fun of him when he was coaching. So that was always fun. But he's a guy he knows basketball, and he knows it at the highest level, and he's Iowa through and through. And I just wonder if that might be something. I mean, then you could, say keep Matt Gatens. You could bring Dean Oliver, who's coaching over at the Iowa United prep school in Des Moines, and bring him on staff. He had been at Wisconsin for several years. That's the start of a pretty good staff that I think Iowa fans would rally behind, with 3 former Hawkeyes, and would get them excited. Now, are they going to win? I don't know. They're going to have to go out and get players. But I'll tell you, knowing all 3 guys, I know they know the sport of basketball, and they understand it, and they have guys ready to go. It would be I think it would be interesting, because I know Ryan's picked up a lot from working with Michael Malone, who's one of the best coaches in the NBA. Yeah, who knows? Maybe find a little Serbian connection. Find another Nikola Jokic to come over and play center. That wouldn't be too bad if you could find another Nikola Jokic. But go ahead.
No, that's the thing, Tom. It's not like he's coaching for a bad franchise either. I mean, the Denver Nuggets have had a ton of success. It's intriguing. Do you have to be a head coach at some point to go be a head coach in Division I basketball? Is that a big enough of a sticking point to like make it so that's not an option?
I don't think so. I think the amount of experience he's had kind of fills that void, and I think he understands what it would take. It was just a thought that passed through my head today. I had him on my list since the beginning, because I thought I thought about so many of these programs are going to NBA guys, and just because so much of what recruiting is very different now. Recruiting today is not about persuasion as much as it is about a transaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you go out and get players, and you don't have to schmooze the mom, schmooze the dad, schmooze the AAU. I mean, there's some of that, but it's not as much. You don't have to wine and dine. You've just got to say, hey, here's a great opportunity. And by the way, go to a big man and say, yeah, I've been coaching Nikola Jokic for the last 5 years, and helping him develop the last 5 years. So that's how I can develop your son, who's a big man. Who wouldn't listen to that? I mean, the 3-time MVP, arguably the best player in the world.
Yeah.
Just something. It is outside of the box. I am not suggesting that this is the only option. I'm just like, this is interesting.
It's a new one. It's a new one to throw
I know
out
people
there.
take it like, oh, he's trying to. This is what we're going to end up with. No, I'm just saying this is an idea.
Yeah. Beyond that idea, next, I get 2 weeks just to make we're safe and everything. In 2 weeks, who's the head basketball coach at the University of Iowa?
Good question. I think it's probably going to be Ben McCollum. That's what I would. If you're giving me the odds question, Matt, which I know you love to do.
Is he minus 200?
Probably, yeah.
Make it so that Chad Leistica, who loves the show, it relates to Chad a little more. So minus 2. How about
minus
Ryan
200.
Bowen? Ryan Bowen plus 600?
Yeah, maybe.
Sprinkle a little bit on that.
Sprinkle. I'm gonna put a new hot board together today, because I've had several guys fall off of there now with DeVries, Nico Medved, obviously Brad Stevens has fallen off of there.
No.
I'm gonna throw a couple more names out there.
Okay.
Today too.
I love it.
I might throw Buzz Williams on there. He's
Where's
one of those
he-
guys that doesn't stay
where's
any
he
place
at?
long. He's at A&M.
Yeah.
And there's kind of rumblings. Maybe it's gotten a little stale down there. Buzz is one of those guys that he's 5 or 6 years and he's out the door.
Can
He's
you
kinda-
can you throw
He's a
Bruce
candle
Pearl?
that burns bright but burns quick.
Can you throw Bruce Pearl on there just to piss Cat off, just for fun?
That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh,
How about
my
his son,
Lord.
Stephen Pearl?
Yeah, just to
throw some on there?
stir the pot a little. Hey Tom, the best hire the University of Iowa made in 2024, in my opinion, the entire university athletic department, the best hire they made was naming Pat Anger the color commentator for the football team. Why, or for the football broadcast? Why not hire Pat Anger as the head coach of the University of Iowa basketball program?
Well, he is more talented at basketball than you, so
Hey, shut up. Hey, before we let you go, I know you're busy, so I appreciate you doing this. What have you filled out a bracket?
I did
All right,
finally.
lay it on
I
us.
filled it out for the contest, the All Ears contest.
Good plug.
Or, no, it's off the air.
You're just saying that to make Corey Sheets laugh. And you know that. He's watching right now, and he loves that. So that's what you're doing. And I'm okay
Yes.
with that. I'm completely okay. In that contest, what everybody should go do, the bracket challenge, simple, easy. It's online. Click the buttons, free of charge. Get a great package of food. And even if you're not in the Quad City area, we'll make it happen. We'll get the Snoop's Chips and Salsa to wherever you're at. Hobo, there's 12 locations all over the place. Godfather's Andy will make it happen. So do that. Get signed up. And challenge Tommy, who's in it, obviously. All right, Tom. Give me that Final Four for Tom Kakert. Give me that national championship game. And give me that national champion and the Tom Kakert bracket.
I can't remember who I had in my final. I think I had Tennessee in there, and I think I had for Camille, mainly for Camille.
Okay, that's nice of you. Even though there's a possible heel turn
Camille.
in her life, heel Camille.
Camille.
Go on. Here, I'll look and see. I'm looking.
I had the Dukies in there. You probably can't look at my bracket yet. I had Florida,
No, I can't.
and I can't remember if I had the top. But anyway, I have Florida and Duke playing for the national title, and I have Florida winning the national title.
Florida versus Duke and Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard not to pick Duke, but like it's one of those things that if you don't pick Duke, you have a good and Duke loses, then you're really solid because I bet 75% of the brackets are going to come in Duke. Wouldn't you think that?
That's why I didn't pick them.
Yeah. No, I agree. But they're really good, Tom. If they're healthy, they're really, really good. So, all right, buddy. Well, I know you got a lot to get to. I'll tell you what. I know you're busy, but Thursday and Friday, I'm going to do this show, and then I'm going to walk downstairs, and I'm going to watch 5 televisions for the entire afternoon. So if Tommy's running around,
It may
he's
be
got
over.
What's that?
It might be over.
There you go.
It might
There
be
you go.
over.
And I got
At some
some.
point. I don't know when. As you know, I've got a busy day on Thursdays. So
No, I know that. So I understand. But I'll tell you this: I also have some plays, some gambling plays. I'll send them out to you and our good friend here in a little bit when we get done with the show. So, Tommy, we appreciate it. Tell people because it's legit. The stuff on the site. If you want Tom's coaching search updates every single day, you can get it without waiting for my show or waiting for a podcast. Just subscribe to the Hawkeye Report.
yeah, subscribe. It's just $1 for the first week, just $1, and you can leave and move on right after that. We're fine with that. But I would just love to get you in for $1 for the first week. And spring football starts next week too. So
Crazy.
it's not like we're not looking for content.
What should I ask Matt Drinkle later in my interview with him for tomorrow? What should I ask Matt Drinkle, Bettendorf grad, former Hawkeye, now head coach at Central Michigan? What's a good question to ask Matt Drinkle?
I have one question for him, and it's because he's part of the Army Navy thing. I would ask him just about coaching and that
Yeah.
legendary game. I really would. I just think that's great. And then ask some stupid anger question about did you think he was too dumb to play at college level? You know,
It's
or
fascinating.
show him that commercial. Show him the Ice Mississippi Valley Tooth Fairy commercial.
You know what? You mentioned that, and I'm gonna bring that. Pat should be back Monday. He's rich and he's living the good life someplace. You know, us hardworking
Yeah,
people.
aren't they on a villa in the south of France? The Angers.
I don't know quite that, but
With that,
I don't.
that money
I,
that big check he collects from Learfield.
it's crazy how the other half lives, Tommy. How the other half lives. But
I know.
no, when he's back, he did this commercial on social media for IH Mississippi Valley Credit Union, and he's in a tutu and dancing around and bibbity boppity. It's amazing. We're gonna have that on Monday.
Boppity boop.
Bibbity boppity boop is what he says. The man will do anything for money. So, all right, Tommy, I'll let you go. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow in the Randazzo Casa down in the basement. If not, we'll talk to you real soon. He is Tom Kakert. See you, buddy.
See ya.
All right. Tom Kakert joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. A lot more to get to. We are just getting warmed up. And Tommy mentioned the bracket challenge. Jump in. I think we're getting close to 100 people in it, which is great. The more the merrier. A great prize for the person who wins it. Completely free to do. So if you're sitting there watching this, go to my Twitter, X, or whatever you call it. Go to my Facebook page, and the link is right there. Click on it and join in and have some fun with the bracket challenge. Up next, we're going to turn our attention to the Iowa State Cyclones because they play tonight. The women do. Bill Fenley, Davenport Native and Company playing Princeton tonight in the first four in the NCAA tournament. We'll preview that. We'll also look ahead to the men going to Milwaukee, same location as the Fighting Illini. We're going to do all that with WOI and Everywhere Iowa's Jake Brend. Great dude. We got him coming up. Also a little bit later on, we'll do our first mock draft of the NFL draft season with my good friend T-Roy. So a lot more to get to. You're watching Off the Air. It's Hump Day on a Wednesday here in the Quad Cities. We will be right back. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist. When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a cloudy, rainy Wednesday here in the Quad Cities. Of course, March Madness is in full swing, so we don't care about the weather because there's plenty of basketball to think about, talk about, and eventually watch coming up tonight and over the next, 2 or 3 weeks. And it starts tonight, the Iowa State women in action in the first 4 of the NCAA tournament. And here to join me to talk all about the Cyclones, men and women and everything else, our Cyclone expert and the greatest sports reporter in the history of the state of Iowa, Jake Brend, joins us right now. Jake, first and foremost, good morning. Thank you for doing this as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's like Christmas, but for an entire month. It's the best time of the year.
It's awesome. And before we get to the Cyclones, and I want to focus on them, we just talked to Tommy Kakert. Iowa with, I guess, your first swing and miss when it comes to Darren DeVries. When you hear the news yesterday, and I know you're right there in the heart of Iowa, and it's funny to watch and gauge the reaction of the fan base, positive and negative. Your thoughts on maybe the first swing and miss for the Iowa Hawkeyes?
Yeah, I was stunned just from what I was hearing. I'm sure it's from a lot of the same people. I thought it was almost a lock that Darren DeVries was set to be the next head coach at Iowa. So that was my initial reaction, but I am on the record. I did go about 5 days ago. I went on our Iowa Everywhere instant reaction show when McCaffrey got fired. I did say that as an Iowa State fan, Ben McCollum would scare me more at Iowa than Darren DeVries. So I am on the record saying that. So I still think if Iowa can land McCollum, I still think that would be a really, really good hire. But if they miss that, then I'm not sure.
Okay, you just perked up the interest of a lot of Iowa fans by saying, as a Cyclone fan, you're more concerned, or you would be more concerned about Ben McCollum. Make them happy this morning. Why do you like Ben McCollum maybe more so than what Darren DeVries would have done?
So I think it's a more risky hire. I think DeVries should have been the first call because I think he is the safe hire. I never saw a world where DeVries would show up to Iowa and it wouldn't work out and be consistently pretty good. I also feel like the ceiling might have been somewhat low relative to McCollum, where I think the world of Ben McCollum. I don't know if you've heard this, but Chris Hassel shared on Two Guys on Iowa Everywhere that his connections with like Grant McCasland at Texas Tech and Dusty May at Michigan, those guys, when they need coaching advice, they go to Ben McCollum. I truly think that he has the chance to be one of the best coaches in the country, but I also think at the same time, while there's a high ceiling, there's a much lower floor because he has only been at the D1 level for 1 year. We don't know what that recruiting would look like at the next level. We don't know in the transfer portal era how he would be able to recruit to Iowa if they're playing kind of this slower, uglier brand of basketball. So that's my thoughts, but I do think the ceiling of what he could potentially be at the Power 5 level is something that could rival Iowa State in the state.
Love it. Love it. Well, that's Jake Brend. That's all we need. No, I'm kidding. We'll talk Cyclones as well. I want to start with the ladies. We go ladies first because, Jake, my father raised a gentleman, so we always go ladies first here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. It's a big game tonight. The Cyclones in the first 4. We've talked the last couple weeks. I thought, yes, they were going to get in, and I thought they deserved better than the first 4 and having to play tonight. I think they maybe use it as some motivation. I like Iowa State tonight. Talk about the matchup and what your thoughts are overall when it comes to Iowa State this evening.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they should have been better than first 4. And you look at their non-conference schedule, playing South Carolina and getting beat by a lot, playing UConn and getting beat by a lot. What if they filled those games with Florida A&M and McNeese State and win those games? I can't confidently say that they're in the first 4. They're probably a 10 seed or something like that, but because they have that those blowout losses on their resume, I think it hurt them. But it also could help them now in the tournament, playing 2 of the best teams in America. I do like the matchup with Princeton. Iowa State is not an 11 seed. They deserve an 11 seed, but they are a top 20 or 30 team in the country disguised as an 11 seed because they had a bad season and they had a really weird season. So I do like their chances against Princeton. And I also like their chances against Michigan in the first round if they can get there. I've watched a lot of Big Ten women's basketball. I don't think Michigan stands out as a great team. So I do like Iowa State's chances there. But it's the next one where you're thinking, man, that's a tough draw because Notre Dame was expected by most to be a 2 seed. They were the number 1 team in the country earlier in the year. That's a really tough matchup to get as your 3 seed, but it's hard to look too far ahead. If Iowa State is able to get past Princeton and give Michigan a game, I think you got to be pretty happy. And then if you can get to the round of 32, you see if your preseason top 10 team can show up and maybe shock the world.
You know, Jake, you look at this team and you have the talent of an Audie Crooks and the names that you mentioned. They have the talent to be a top 20 team. Things didn't go, as planned, especially earlier in the season. But I'm going to roll with Audie Crooks and the players they have on this team more often than not. Kind of talk about that because when you play a Princeton team, they haven't seen the likes of some of the talent individually that Iowa State's going to bring to the table tonight.
Yeah, well, if you haven't played Iowa State ever, you haven't seen a player like Audie Crooks. She truly is one of one.
Yeah.
And she's hard to prepare for. Like, you've seen it when teams face Iowa State for the first time. Last year in the NCAA tournament, Maryland had no answer when she went for 40. So I do think there is an advantage there really against any team in the NCAA tournament when you have Audie Crooks. And then especially when you're going against a mid-major school like Princeton. And I know they're pretty good, that they're in the tournament quite a bit. But again, yeah, they won't know what's coming until they're actually in the game because that's just the nature of the beast when you're going up against a player as unique and as dominant as Audie.
Tonight, the Iowa State Cyclones, the ladies, are 3.5-point favorites. I like that. I like that 3.5. I would lay that 3.5. Thoughts on the gambling side of things when you look at, I'm looking at DraftKings right now, -3 for Bill Fenley and the Iowa State Cyclones.
Yeah, I like that. This is Emily Ryan's last ride as a basketball player. I actually have a feature story on weareiowa.com that just aired last night. She is going straight into coaching. One of the all-time great Cyclones. She's not going to pursue a WNBA career, not going to try and play overseas. She's going right into coaching, and she is extra motivated and a player that already steps up in tournament time anyways. With her, Audie, Addie Brown, again, you just say those names out loud, and then with some of the supporting cast, that is a team, if you're in that play-in game, that you're like, oh, we got to play them? Like, that's not fair because they just underachieved, and that's what it is. All the analytics, everything would say that this team probably should have been no worse than a 6 seed. But, again, it just wasn't a great season. So the hope is that they put it all together tonight. And if they do, I think 3.5 would be a really safe bet.
Last one on the ladies. Bill Fenley, Davenport native. We know him well. He's been there for a minute or two in Ames. You've been around him this year. What's he like now? Obviously still has that passion and that love for coaching. And he's had success in the tournament as well. Just being around him some this year and everything, give the hometown people your thoughts on Bill Fenley this far into his career.
Yeah, he's still Bill. He is unfiltered. He likes to talk. He's very passionate about what he does. He still loses his voice almost every single game. And this year for him, I think a lot of it has been trying to find that third option. That's what he spent a lot of time on. Is Audie and Addie are great, but we've got to find somebody around them. We've got to find somebody to support them. So I don't know what those practices looked like, but I would imagine a lot of it is, do you want to be here or not? If we want to win, this can't be just a two-player show. And I think there's a lot of frustration early on, but I get the sense that he's proud of how his team has come on towards the end of the season. They didn't get their first quad one win until the last regular season game when they just demolished Kansas State at Hilton Coliseum. So I think this is a team that is peaking at the right time. I don't know if you watched that Baylor game in the Big 12 tournament. It was one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen. And I think that locker room feels like they should have won that game, and they feel like it was taken away from them. So if you look at just the last month, you got to win over a really good team. Should have had another one. I think they're playing their best ball, and I think Bill's pretty proud of how his group has rallied.
Jake Brend from WOI and Everywhere Iowa joining us, talking of Cyclones. The men go to Milwaukee. When I see it on paper, I love the draw. I do have money already on Iowa State. We've talked on the show to make the Final Four, and I was pumped. Jake, I watched that bracket come through, and I'm like, Milwaukee, I love the location. I love the matchups. I can see this team getting to a Final Four. And then my buzzkill came about 15, 20 minutes later when Gilbert's out for the NCAA tournament. Let's start with the draw. When that pops up there, the bracket comes out, Milwaukee, closeness, all that kind of stuff. What pops through your head when you see what Iowa State got on paper?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It almost seemed too good to be true. When most bracketologists had Wisconsin and Kentucky ahead of Iowa State, which would have bumped them either to Wichita or Denver. So when I think Texas A&M was that first 4 seed to pop up, you're like, well, I think that means Iowa State's a 3 most likely. And then when Iowa State popped up in Milwaukee, that's when I was really surprised because the committee put Iowa State ahead of Wisconsin, ahead of Kentucky. And it's as good of a draw as you could have asked for. I don't think Iowa State's even going to see Ole Miss. I don't know if you watched North Carolina last night demolish San Diego State. I think when that line comes out, if it's not already out, North Carolina might be favored, if not pretty close to a pick 'em.
Yeah.
So North Carolina's playing good ball at the right time of year, but they're not unbeatable by any stretch. So if Iowa State can get past Lipscomb, which it's a sneaky, tough mid-major matchup, they're kind of BYU light, which is Iowa State's kryptonite, but they don't have the athletes that a BYU has, and they're still a 14 seed for a reason. As long as Iowa State is able to be somewhat good on offense, it shouldn't really matter if Lipscomb can go out and hit 10 threes. They should get past that. But yeah, North Carolina, Ole Miss, I think are both very winnable games for Iowa State, and the Cyclones are the better team. And if you can get to the Sweet 16, they haven't been past that point in 25 years. If you would have asked me before the tournament, what 2 seed do you want to see, it no doubt would have been Michigan State or St. John's. Just strictly based off of matchups. Neither team great at shooting the 3 ball. In fact, you could say both are pretty bad at shooting the 3. And those will both be ugly games if Iowa State is able to match up with Michigan State. So all things considered, it was as good of a draw as you could have asked for.
Then comes the buzzkill, because I agree with everything you just said. And it's funny because you got Wisconsin fans kind of cranky because if that injury was known before the pairings, they think they're a 3 and Iowa State's a 4 and et cetera, et cetera. Very smart on TJ to hold it probably.
Yeah.
With that being said, it is tough without Gilbert, but they're gotten a little used to playing without him. Obviously had him for a game in the Big 12 tournament, but just your thoughts on how he impacts what Iowa State looks like moving forward.
First and foremost, it hurts the defense the most. Between him and Tamin Lipsey, there's not a better 1-2 defensive backcourt in college basketball. I would be pretty confident in saying those are two of the 10 best perimeter defenders in the sport. And they're on the same team. So when you take away one of them, you're taking away a massive strength of the team. With that being said, the version of Keyshawn Gilbert that has been battling through this injury since early January, that has progressively gotten worse, and I think progressively affected him mentally more and more as the season has gone on, I think not having him will help the offense. The ball has moved better when he hasn't been on the court. The turnover problem has been not solved, but it hasn't been as much of a problem without Gilbert offensively. So that's where the give and take is. And no matter, I guess, what version of Gilbert was going to show up, it wasn't going to be as good as the Gilbert to start the season. The Keyshawn Gilbert that was in Maui and the Keyshawn Gilbert that played in the Cyhawk game and played against Marquette, that was a guy who looked like a first-team All-American. And that is when Iowa State was at their peak, and that was when you genuinely thought they could win a national championship. And with his muscle strain, his groin and quad strain, it didn't seem like that guy was coming back. And that's just too bad because Iowa State is not – their ceiling is not as high as it once was. But I also do think their floor might be a little higher when you're not dealing with the day-to-day of, is Keyshawn playing? Is he not? Is he going to be able to give us 11? Is he going to be able to give us 20 minutes? So I do think having that distraction gone will help the team for the first weekend. But beyond that, it's going to be a lot harder to advance.
Jake, when they go to Milwaukee, you mentioned that first-round game, and very similar a little bit to a BYU light. The line is 14.5. What are your thoughts on that first round game? And there's always, it's so crazy because people get so much caught up into seeds. So you're young. When I was old, if you were a 6 seed, you were the favorite against an 11. If you were a 5, you were the favorite, markedly so against. That's not the way it is anymore. I do think Iowa State gets a lot of respect with the line, but you said there's going to be upsets in March. How important is it for them not to overlook, like you said, a pretty grindy, a pretty pesky Lipscomb's team?
Yeah, the losses to K-State at home by 20 in Hilton Coliseum, and the loss at Oklahoma State, maybe the worst team in the Big 12 on the road, those two losses are probably the reason Iowa State's not a 2 seed. But I also think they could be the reason why there's no shot Iowa State overlooks Lipscomb, because they have proven that they can get clipped, that they can get beat by anybody, and I would imagine that is what practice is like every single day this week. Like you throw Lipscomb and Oklahoma State on a neutral court, that's probably a game that's going 50-50. So if you can lose to Oklahoma State, you can lose to a confident mid-major team that can shoot the ball. And that's where, yeah, those losses might come in handy now. There's going to be no overlooking from the team. Maybe from the media, like that happens. From the fan base, absolutely. But I don't think the team will be overlooking Lipscomb out of the ASUN.
The closeness of Milwaukee. Jake Brend joining us right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. We love it as media people. I think fans love it because they can get up there. Everyone sees what happens in Kansas City when it's an easier drive. What are your expectations for what Friday night will look like, Sunday will look like, if Iowa State gets to that point on Sunday with the amount of Cardinal and gold in the building for them?
There'll be a lot. There's a lot of other fan bases there. Illinois travels well. Kentucky travels well. So it's not going to look like Omaha did last year where it was, 70% Iowa State fans. But there's going to be a lot there. I don't know what the split will be like from Friday to Sunday, just because, people would rather maybe save the money to be there for the bigger game on Sunday. But if Iowa State makes it to Sunday, I would expect a really, really big crowd. And it's just 4 years ago that Iowa State was there, and beat Wisconsin in the round of 32 in their home place, and that was almost a straight, probably 60-40 split in favor of Wisconsin, which is absurd because it's in their backyard. But again, this is TJ Altenberger's backyard. It's a homecoming for him. It's a homecoming for Milan Momcilovic, a lot of the staff with Wisconsin ties. So this is a very familiar place for Iowa State, the fan base, and the team.
A few more for Jake Brend before we let him go. You mentioned they're not going to overlook their first-round matchup. We can. If Iowa had a choice, if Iowa State had a choice, would they want Ole Miss or would they want North Carolina? Especially, is there overreaction to what we saw last night from North Carolina? And what's a better matchup for Iowa State?
For me, I always go back to which team shoots the ball better, because the way Iowa State plays defense, they surrender a lot of open threes by design. It's what they trade off for trying to force the turnovers through a bunch of traps, a bunch of doubles. So they surrender a lot of open threes. And North Carolina, they're not a great three-point shooting team, but they're better than Ole Miss, and they've been really hot lately. And I don't know if you want to see a team that just won a game by almost 30 points, and then that means if they beat Ole Miss, they'd be on a 2-game winning streak. They'd be hot. I don't necessarily know if you want that. I think I might just take my chances with Ole Miss because they are similar to Iowa State, where they're pretty balanced offensively and defensively, but they have had a rough February. They've lost 5 of their last 7, similar to Iowa State. I think that would be a slightly better matchup compared to North Carolina.
So, Jake, we have a off-the-air bracket challenge here on the show. Everybody's flocking to it. They love it. And everybody's filling out their brackets. I'm assuming you filled out your brackets. I want to start with Iowa State. How far do you have Iowa State going in the Jake Brend bracket? Everybody wants to know.
I've got them losing to Auburn in the Elite Eight. I think if they can get to the Sweet 16, I like the matchup against Michigan State. But beyond that, without Gilbert, I don't know if they'll have the firepower to be able to take down a top team like Auburn.
No, that's why I have them as well. What is your Final Four? What is your national championship game? And who's your winner?
So this is all subject to change because I still have about 24 hours to tinker, which is a bad habit of mine.
I do the same thing. And then I always go oh, I had that and I changed it. So I should just do it once, but I'm like you. I like to tinker. And real quick, my oldest, Charlie, filled it out when it came out on Sunday, and he was pumped about it. He loved it. He laminated it. He got my wife's laminating machine out and laminated it. And then the next morning he's like, Dad, I got to redo it. I don't like what I did. So never laminate after you fill it out the first time. With that being said, Jake Brend, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'll print mine out tomorrow morning, fold it up, and then it goes in the wallet. If there's no creases, I don't want to hear about the upset you picked, because I know some people, they'll fill out 20 brackets, and like my brother's one of them. I don't know if he does it anymore. He's grown up a little bit, but 5 years ago, he would fill out 20 brackets, and oh my gosh, I had Mercer beating Duke in 8 of my brackets. Cool. I don't care.
It's like those people that do fantasy football and they got like, oh, I got him on my fantasy football team. I'm like, oh, you do? Well, one of them. I got like 7 teams. I'm like,
yeah, I'm playing against him in the 3 other leagues.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So, all right, the people want to know who's in that Final Four.
Yep. So I've got Auburn, Texas Tech, Alabama, and Houston. And I've got Houston over Auburn in the national championship.
Who do you have knocking Duke out?
I've got Bama beating them in the Elite Eight.
Okay. And is that thoughts, reasons, too much hype? I do like Alabama. I think they can outscore you, which is a beautiful thing. But your just thoughts on mighty Duke. I think I would say probably 70% of the brackets I've seen so far, and that may be under, has Duke winning the national championship.
Part of it is that I'm never going to go with the team that everybody's picking. I also think Alabama might be getting a little bit underlooked, or I guess overlooked, because of maybe their poor defense. And they have played a murderer's row in the SEC. They're scoring a lot of points, but they've given up a lot of points against Florida, against Auburn. So we just saw them a week ago, or a week and a half ago, go into Auburn and win. This is a team that's been there before. They were in the Final Four last year. Nate Oates is one of the best coaches in the country. They can outscore you. And Duke, I think the world of Cooper Flagg, they're still a young team that could get clipped before that point. I do think they make the Elite Eight, though, and I'm just going to barely give the edge to Alabama.
I like that. Is Grant Nelson okay? I hadn't heard since.
That's what it all hinges on. I haven't really heard a crazy update. I would guess he's good to go by the second weekend.
Yeah.
If not by the first weekend, but I like their draw against either Vanderbilt or St. Mary's in that second round. It's the Sweet 16 where they'll need Nelson, and the 6th seed in that region is a team that we know well, BYU. That they're pretty much playing a junior version of themselves.
Yeah.
Like if we could get one Sweet 16 matchup that I want to see more than anything, it's Alabama BYU, because if they set the over under at 300, I think I might still be tempted to take the over.
I love it. Last one before I let you go. We started with Iowa. We'll end with Iowa with our Cyclone expert. If it's not Ben McCollum, who is the head coach? Excuse me. Who is the head coach at Iowa 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, whatever it may be? Isn't that the question right now? Because it's like, it's Ben or bust is what it seems like for most people.
Yeah, I want to say it's probably Brian Wardle from Bradley. I'm sure a guy that you know well, and you're part of the state.
Yeah.
He's done a good job at Bradley, but that is not the type of coach that would move the needle fan-wise. And I can't speak to what success he would have. He pretty consistently, I think, has the best roster in the Valley. Yeah. That hasn't always translated to the best team. Like this year, they should have been able to overmatch Drake and didn't, and Ben McCollum outcoached him. So that's why I would have McCollum over Wardle, but he's done a good job in Peoria. Other names, I guess Steve Forbes would maybe be one looking to come home, but it gets thin after that. I'm not sure if there's any mystery candidates. I'm sure there are that we don't know about that Beth Getz has connections to in her previous roles. But yeah, it gets really thin after McCollum.
You know, one that I've heard that there's no like I've heard is a possibility, but people have said, what about this guy? Ryan Bowen is somebody that's in the NBA doing great stuff in the NBA, doesn't have the head coaching experience, which I think is the thing, but that was a name I heard the other day that was like, not with any validity. I'm not reporting that as something I heard is possible, but just as a interesting name, a dark horse name, if somebody, off of the radar, where it seems like it's Ben or bust is what it feels like for the Iowa Hawkeyes. But the Iowa State Cyclones don't have to put up with that. They're playing in the NCAA tournament. They got a coach that's said no to Indiana, basically, and is going to be there for quite some time. So, Jake, I appreciate it. Enjoy the March Madness. We will check in with you next week sometime, and hopefully your bracket still looks as good as mine done at that time. We don't have to rip things up and stuff like that.
Not going to get my hopes up, but I appreciate it. Thanks, Dazzo.
All right. That is Jake Brend with WOI, and, of course, Everywhere Iowa, doing a fantastic job in the middle of the state of Iowa, covering the Cyclones, covering everything else as well. So March Madness is in full swing. We love it. But believe it or not, in 36 days, the NFL draft takes center stage from Green Bay. And we're going to talk about our first mock draft when it comes to the NFL draft with a good friend of mine, a co-host of the old Don't Hassle Us, We're Local show here in the Quad Cities, T-Roy. We'll talk a little NFL mock draft next, right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist. When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Wednesday here in the Quad Cities. Wednesday, March 19th. March Madness is in full swing. We'll talk a lot about that throughout the week. We've already done that today. Tom Kakert joining us off the top to give us the latest on the Iowa coaching search. And is it Ben McCullum or bust or what's next? So great to have Tommy on as always. Jake Brend, fantastic when it comes to the Cyclone. So a lot of March Madness talk coming up tomorrow. Really excited. Rob Brooks, the voice of the Iowa women's basketball team, a frequent guest here on the show, will joining us to look ahead to the Iowa women and the weekend they have ahead of them. So excited for Rob Brooks. And then also really excited to welcome Matt Drinkle as well. Matt Drinkle is a Bettendorf guy. He was coached at St. Ambrose Western, started at Bettendorf High School, coached Pat Anger, God bless him. And he's really improved since then. He was the offensive line coach at Army last year. He's the head coach now, his first head coaching gig in Division I at Central Michigan. He'll be on the show tomorrow as well, so excited about tomorrow's show. And also, don't forget, we're running our bracket challenge right now. So go to my social media, go to X, go to Facebook. The link is right there. The winner of the pool gets a dozen enchiladas from Snoop, a large chips and salsa, a large specialty pizza from Godfather's, and a $20 gift card from Hungry Hobo. So we thank our fantastic sponsors for helping us with that as well. But we mentioned it's not just March Madness, because in 36 days, the NFL draft will take center stage live from Green Bay, Wisconsin. And joining me now, a familiar face. I'm super excited to welcome T-Roy to the show for the very
What's
first
up,
time.
Daz?
Man, I've
This
missed
is great,
you.
man. I missed you. I'll tell you, I got to let all the listeners know out there. I know there's probably some old hasslers from the show out there. I know Jay is watching, so I want to give a shout out to those guys. But Randazzo, sends me a video of Angerer in a Tooth Fairy outfit. So you're trying to say this guy used to coach the Tooth Fairy? I mean,
guess.
I was dying laughing. And Anger never ceased to amaze me at how good he is at some of that dry humor where you just like, what is he doing?
Well, I think he'll do anything for money. That's the sad part. I don't know.
Well, they have a name for people like that. I don't know if we can say it on the air, though.
You can say whatever you want. It's YouTube, baby.
Hey, but I love it. I love it being on the show. For those that did watch my previous show, which I miss, and I know Jay misses it too. But we called it my .08 mock draft, as in everything had a connection to alcohol, which it should in life. That's just what I firmly believe. So, But yeah, I got the first 6 picks for a little bit of insight, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. And I'm looking forward to the draft.
I love
it.
It's
Other than like the first few weeks of the season where I figure out Dallas sucks and I don't have anything to watch anymore. It's my favorite time of the year. On top of your fantasy drafts and things like that, that's what I get the most excited about is this time, just speculating, what teams are going to do what. Obviously, in the top 6 picks, it goes Titans, Browns, Giants, Pats, Jags, Raiders. Well, there's 3 historically crappy franchises in those top 6 picks.
Yeah.
The Browns, I mean, terrible. The Raiders are going to Raider when it comes to this sometimes. And then the Jaguars, you just never know what they're doing. They seem like they're on track, and then all of a sudden they're just off. The other franchises, obviously, the Patriots had some downtime. I think they're back to their ways with the coach. I like Vrabel, don't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
In that spot, brings back the history, brings back more of a kind of a younger Belichick feel. Titans have had their ups and downs, but they've never been like the franchise you're like, oh, they're complete garbage,
Yeah.
And then the Giants, obviously some Super Bowls here in the last, 15 years and that. And it's going to be a fun first round.
Absolutely.
Excited about it. So
before we go too much farther, T-Roy, I want to ask you because, and I've told people this, I was super, I don't know if jealous is the right word, but what you guys did, and I got to be part of it, and I was on the show so often, all that kind of stuff, but it inspired me in a way because that's what I always wanted to do. And I did a little segment on WQAD at Randazzo's Rants back in the day when you guys started because sports radio is needed and all those kind of things. And now it's not just radio, it's streaming stuff and being on all the social media and stuff. It's not the old FM AM radio that we're used to, but this kind of stuff is needed. And I thought you guys did a great job putting it back into the forefront and doing some really fun things with it. And it got me kind of thinking like, am I getting bored doing the 4 minutes of sports a night? So what you guys did was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
T-Roy.
I think you were. I mean, God, I don't know. I think they wasted your talents in ways, right? I mean, you and I have talked about it a little bit off air. Like, you're more than 4 minutes, and you have more connections than 4 minutes, and that was kind of like with us. We were fledgling in a way, but Jay did a great job of going out and always finding something interesting, and obviously he had, gotten in touch with you, and you gave us a great shout out when we first started. I know Kidwell was great for us, and a lot of the other local guys would come on and be a part of it. Obviously, Shake and Cake, Tom Kakert, loved having him on.
We gotta get that to stick. Shake and Cake is so good.
Yeah.
Why doesn't that stick?
That's what I always call him, a little Shake and Cake. I don't know. I think it should.
Yeah.
And then, and then we even had the aspect of some of the people from Quad City Times on, and I thought it was fun while it lasted. And I think we definitely tapped into a nerve. Like you're saying, I don't know if radio is necessarily always going to be there in that aspect, but this type of thing, people are evolving to this. They want to watch and see or listen. Yeah, they want it in the background, but they don't just want the ESPN version of it where it's, you and I decide we're going to have a different take and argue.
Yeah.
I've always just, that's the Skip Baylesses and the all that, and it's like, okay, well, I don't need to hear Stephen A. yelling at Shannon Sharp because they got into an argument. I think we can debate sports, have the same opinion but slightly different. You can like teams, not like teams. Everybody knows I don't like Illinois. I don't like the Illini.
Yeah.
And I
That's
hope
okay.
everybody listening knows it.
Yeah.
I'll tell them.
That's okay.
But the Iowa hasn't been good at anything lately. So, but that's fun for me to jab at people I know they're going to get mad.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not going to argue with, anybody that's going to be like coming on a show that's going to talk Illinois football or Illinois basketball even. So yeah, and like I said, I caught the end of your last segment. Some great stuff, coming off what you had questions about who's going to be coaching Iowa.
Yeah. Well, think about that, T-Roy, because in a time like this, with a coaching search that the University of Iowa hasn't had a coaching search of big magnitude in 15 years since Fran. Even when Lisa Bluter retired, 5 minutes later they announced that Coach Jensen was the coach. So, and that
was a good move, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff people love. People want to talk about it. And like going back to my former life and not bashing it, but I would have 4 minutes or whatever to talk about the Iowa coaching search update or what's going on. I just talked to Kakert for 45 minutes, and that's what people want to get into it. They want to talk about it. They want to know, if not Ben McCullum, then who? What happened with Darren DeVries? And I feel like this platform gives us that ability, and you guys did it so well too. And it's not just arguing, like you mentioned. There's fun segments you can do. There's mock drafts you can do. When you sit around with your buddies at the bar, because it all comes back to that, and have a great conversation about sports.
Alcohol, man.
But that's what we love to do. We just do it in front of people. I love it. And I will mention this, and I think we can talk about this, but we're efforting, and I'm pretty sure we're good to go. We're going to do our first remote ever for this whole show. We're going to do that at the aforementioned Oscars that he's wearing across his chest.
Oscars Pub, yeah.
The Thursday of the first round of the NFL draft. I want to say it's April 25th. I can't remember for sure. But we'll do the show that day.
24th.
24th.
I think it's 24th, man.
We're going to do that show from 5 to 7 that day. Instead of doing it from 10 to noon, we're just going to do our show from 5 to 7 leading up to the NFL draft. And, Pat will probably be there. I'm pretty sure you know how Pat is, but Pat will be there and other people can stop by. We'll have Shake and Cake show up as well. So a fun way to kind of do the show on location and then, enjoy a great night at Oscars as well. So, all right, let's get into this T-Roy .08 mock draft.
.08 mock draft. So to give everybody a background, kind of how I run this down, I do my research. I multi-source team needs first. I don't just go to other people's mock drafts and be like, okay, what do they think? What do they think? I literally go in, I look up the Titans, and I go to 5 different sources for team needs. And if of the 5 sources, if 4 of them are in agreement on one thing, I'm like, okay, that's got to be the top need. So then from there, I have my rankings of each individual player on a list of 1 through 40 here. And then I have positions ranked out anywhere from 5 to 8. Obviously, edge rushers, offensive tackles, in this day and age, the corners, those are going to go deeper. You know what I'm saying? You're going to see edge rushers that are the 5th, 6th, 7th ranked edge rusher going at the end of this draft. Same thing with offensive line. Like people have gotten wise to it.
Yeah.
So as we start out, I think kind of with what I've seen and everything where I've looked, it was for the longest time, everybody thought it was going to be Shadir Sanders as the number 1 overall pick. And as time has gone with all the different camps and different showcases of talent, it surely became Cam Ward. I was on the Cam Ward train prior to that. So I have Cam Ward, quarterback from Miami, going first to the Titans.
I feel like there should be we should have some music or something like dun, 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 the first pick.
Well, I can have my dog bark in the back.
And I can do that too. I got my kids roaming right here, but all right, Cam Ward, tell me why.
Cam Ward, I think when it comes to the full package, he has escapability. Okay. He's going to be able to start day one. Some of the knocks on Sanders is he's not necessarily mobile. He doesn't necessarily have the arm strength. And Ward can throw from those multi-arm angles. If you've seen some of the stuff on him, and I hate it when they do the comparisons. But obviously, when we start talking about multiple arm angles, everybody thinks of Patrick Mahomes. Okay, he does the weird, flick of this. Granted they lost the Super Bowl, but there's never been a three-peat for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to do in the NFL. These guys are all really good, and you can be the worst team in the league, and you can jump up to 12 wins. People can throw you in the dumpster fire, and all of a sudden you lead the Minnesota Vikings to 14 wins, and you've signed a big contract with the Seattle Seahawks next year. I mean, that's the NFL. These guys are talented. I think it all boils down to coaching more than anything, but I think this Cam Ward guy, I think those are my reasons why he's going number one overall.
I love it. Number 2 pick.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Number 2 pick. Yeah, so number 2 pick, the Browns. What do you say about the Browns that hasn't been said? I don't want to sit here and pile on them. They make this deal for the massage fella, and they got hosed, right? I mean, come on. Everybody knew at that point this guy wasn't going to really do what he was. I mean, I think his image just got ruined. It probably ruined, some part of his brain that was the confidence area, And they do need a quarterback.
Yeah, badly.
I just don't see them. I don't see them making that call because the guy that's there is. Imagine this, and they don't really need this guy because they signed their big defensive end.
Yeah,
but
Miles.
I think they're taking Abdul Carter. Yeah, I think they're taking Abdul Carter.
He's the most talented dude on the board. I think he's the most talented player in the draft.
And so for them, they're like, okay, can we get it done then? Because what's still out there, and some of the rumors, obviously, there's a huge rumor out there that Jerry Jones is going to trade up to the number 1 overall pick. I hope not, but if that happens, it changes everything up. And I still think Cam goes 1, and then we figure out what happens to Dak.
Yeah,
but we'll go from there. But I just think there's still guys floating around out there. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers hasn't landed yet. You're not a NFC North fan if you don't really want him to go to Minnesota to create the Favre trifecta.
Yeah,
I know all the Minnesota fans out there are just dreading it, right?
No, I know it.
There is a lot of the talking heads. A lot of people have him going to Pittsburgh. If that happens, where does Russ land? And I think that's where the Browns come in. I think Russ lands with the Browns, and they take Abdul Carter, and then they have these 2 insane defensive ends wreaking havoc on Lamar Jackson's life.
Yeah, well,
that's what you're trying to do. Yeah,
you look at it, and that's what the blueprint that the Eagles put just on the field is. If you're not going to be great at quarterback, which they were good at quarterback, get to the quarterback, and that would be a thing. As a Cowboys fan, if Jerry's trying to get up to number 1, and he's doing that for a quarterback, right?
He has to be, right?
So if
you're not going number 1 to get Abdul,
you're a Cowboy fan. So let me throw this at you: would you trade Dak Prescott for the number 2 overall pick and some other things? The Cowboys the Cowboys take Shador. They get out of Dak's contract. The Browns, who say they're ready to win now with Myles Garrett, has a quarterback that they can win with now.
I see what you're saying. They trade with the Browns instead of with the Titans at one.
Yeah.
Taking Shador, and then they fire this plug-in coach so Deion can have 1 more year at Colorado to save face, and then he comes in and coaches his son. That's a very interesting take.
That's all off the top of my head. That's what I do.
Well, hey, that's why you're a pro, and
you can do all your research. You can be a nerd and do all your research and graphs and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to do what I do. No, so okay. So you got Abdul Carter going number 2. No trades in the .088 draft. No trades.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have any insight into any of these GMs in the NFL either. Yeah. Like, hey, man, if there's a trade happening, I hear a rumor from a guy that knows a lot more than I do, but I'm not factoring in trades. I'm just factoring in team needs. So,
I love it.
Like I said, I think the Browns fill their need at quarterback in free agency, and they take probably the most talented guy in this draft overall, in Abdul Carter.
No, I get it.
And then go to the Giants. The Giants are another one of those teams that are in the talk for Aaron Rodgers. If I'm him, I'm getting the hell out of New York City, right?
Right. Oh.
I don't think that. Why would you even want to play there?
No.
The media coverage alone is insane, So I feel their top needs quarterback, and they for sure are taking Shedeur Sanders if he's there.
I love it.
And then you combine him with Malik Neighbors. They're starting to build. I wouldn't be surprised if you see them take a running back in the second round. A lot of guys are out there in the second round that I don't think. Obviously, Janty and Hampton, I don't think they make it to the second round. O'Mary and Hampton had a great combine, but the kid out of Iowa, Caleb Johnson, had a great combine. He's moved up. He's actually, in some of the rankings I've seen, he's gone up past the two Ohio State running backs, who are both decent. Yeah. So I think you're looking at something like that, possibly Caleb Johnson or one of the two guys out of Ohio State, possibly going there for them, because they still need to fill that running back need. They really wanted to keep Saquon, and it fell through their hands.
Yeah,
and it was terrible GMing, but I can't really call anybody a terrible GM when I live with Jerry Jones. So
it's funny because you're right, and I think I've heard these crazy rumors that Shedeur's going to move out of the first round and all this kind of stuff. You and I both know that when all's said and done, quarterbacks are going to be taken high. It's just what they do. He's easily the second best quarterback in this draft. He's not falling out of the first round, more or less the top 5, probably the top 3. So when all's said and done, that guy's going to go someplace, and I think he's going to have a good NFL career. So number 4, what do you got for number 4?
Yeah, and to touch back on Shedeur a little bit, he gets knocked a little bit for his he's more of a pocket passer, blah blah blah. He took a lot of hits and still had a very good completion percentage when he was at Colorado. So I think this guy's tough enough to do it. So moving on to number 4, the New England Patriots. So I'm like back to the Belichick era. Well, how did Belichick build his teams? From the line out, right?
Yeah.
They have Drake May. I feel they have their quarterback. They got their stud. Well, now they have to protect him, right? All day long, they're taking the best offensive tackle in this draft, and that's Will Campbell out of LSU. He can play interior or on the edge. We'll see how he develops, but he, hands down, from everything I've read, this dude is the total package in O lineman. And I really wish that he was a guy that could fall to Dallas at 12, but it's just not happening. There's no way he's getting past some of these other teams that also have offensive tackle needs.
This seems like the most duh pick or obvious pick, where there's a glaring need,
right? And
there's the best guy available. Unless he gets into the top 3 somehow, this seems like this pick that, like, if everybody puts this on their mock draft, it's like the freebie question on a test. You should get this one right.
Yeah, and I hope people understand that the Patriots are going to get back to that boring draft, right? And don't be surprised if they're in a team that trades out for a few extra picks too. I mean, he learned from the master.
Yeah.
And I think it happens. It's very possible that happens. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think Will Campbell, like you said, that like you can't go wrong with this.
Uh-oh. T-Roy went bye-bye.
Sorry about that, Daz.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, well, when you're trying to have a show, Daz, when your wife's trying to call you, like, what is she thinking right now?
Man.
She knows.
My wife doesn't watch, so she knows better. She knows. Hey, we are with T-Roy right now doing his .08 mock draft. We're doing our top 6 picks today. We're going to do another 6 next week. We're going to keep doing 6 for the entire first round. And then, of course, the first round
we're
of the
going to
NFL
do
draft.
6. Daz, we're going to do 6, 5, 5, 5, and in 6.
Okay. Yes, that's a lot of
Yeah,
math.
that's okay.
But we're going to do it in
It's all right.
installments. So don't make me do math,
Yes.
but absolutely. And then of course we mentioned we're going to start promoting it more, and we'll get you guys all the information, but the first off the air remote coming up at Oscars coming up on April 24th for the first round of the draft. So number 5, a couple more to get to today. Number 5 of the NFL draft.
The Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, they have defensive needs, and they need interior defensive line, and they need corner. The second best defensive player in this draft is the D lineman out of Michigan, Mason Graham. Run stopper, just a complete stud. And, you're going to see, this is very telling of how good Michigan was a year ago. All these guys that won a championship as underclassmen, or not seniors, I should say, and they're coming out of the draft. You're going to see Michigan with at least 4 guys taken in the first 15 picks. I'm guessing.
Yeah, which is crazy.
They yeah. And, obviously they upset Ohio State, who went on to win the national title. But, I think, by the way, if they don't win the national title, somebody doesn't have a job.
Yeah, right? He goes from being on the hot seat to being the best coach and signing an extension. It's crazy.
Yeah, but for sure, I think this is another no-brainer for me. Mason Graham to the Jags, fill some defensive holes for them, and that's where they're needing it right now. We'll see where they end up on some of the other stuff. I know they got a good rookie receiver to pair with Trevor Lawrence, keep him healthy. I wouldn't be surprised to see them take some O-line help somewhere in the draft or pick it up free agency-wise. But those are the top needs for the Jags right now.
Okay, to number 6, the Raiders. I love it because you said the Raiders are going to Raider. They've gotten Geno Smith
Raiders
this
are going to
offseason.
Raider.
They signed Max Crosby to a huge deal, which I think is a good thing. He's a fantastic talent, but they have their quarterback. Do they help their quarterback, or what do they do here at number 6?
Well, and it's great because as I went down to team needs for the Raiders, it was quarterback, wide receiver, running back. Well, they, like you mentioned, they got Geno, so they got their guy. I think Geno is very serviceable. We'll see what happens with that for him. But yes, they get him help. But this is where I bounced around because this could have been one of 2 picks. It was either going to be a running back or wide receiver. So in my eyes, it was either going to be Janty or Travis Hunter. Now, I write the .08 draft in pencil is because things change. I originally had this as them taking Travis Hunter and trying to get him to play both ways because that sounds like something the Raiders would do, right?
Yeah.
But then there's just no way that anybody can play both ways in the NFL. It's physically impossible. So as I thought this through, I'm like, you know what? This is them saying we want to get back to the glory days. This is our next Bo Jackson, or this is our next Marcus Allen. I feel they're taking Ashton Janty at running back from Boise State.
He's really good. And you know what? And I'm not going to pump the Lions or boost them up any more than I already do in this show. But when they took Jahmyr Gibbs and everybody laughed at number 12, he's a game changer. And I think you look at like Genty as he's an offensive weapon. That's what Ben Johnson always said about Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not getting a running back. I'm getting an offensive weapon. I'm getting one of the fastest guys on the field. I'm getting a home run threat. I'm getting the ball out of the backfield. I'm throwing it to him some. And I think you can get that with Austin Genty as well. And it's changed the way people have looking at running backs. And I agree with you. He doesn't get out of the top 10, but I think he goes here with the Raiders. No. But with that being said, T-Roy, Travis Hunter might be arguably one of the best players in the draft, and he's still on the board for next week. He's still on the board next week. That's
still
a great
on the board for next week. I'll give you a hint. He's going next week.
We're not going to have to wait 2 weeks.
He's going next week.
What do you see with Austin Genty, and what's the difference between him and there's a lot of running backs? It's a really good running back board that you've kind of mentioned, but he's obviously one. What's the difference between him and then the rest of them down the list a little bit?
I would say the difference between him and like Hampton. Hampton's got a little bit more size. Hampton has a lot of gifts. I I think Janty's going to be a great back. I don't think you can screw it up. I think he's going to do well. He might be a little bit, I don't think size is really a concern. He's not small by any means, but he is smaller than Hampton. I think Hampton ends up being the steal of this draft.
Oh, wow.
But Janty is, I think as time goes, I think Hampton ends up being the better of the two running backs out of this draft.
Is Genty the Bijan Robinson, and is Hampton the Jahmyr Gibbs?
100%.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. I love that.
And Bijan's still a great, and Bijan's still a great back. Now, I told you I had some quick, fun little facts for you before I do go.
I love fun. Give it to me.
Okay. And let's see if you can get this right. There are 16 teams in the NFL since the Super Bowl era began that have a winning percentage over 500. Of those 16 teams, only one has not won a Super Bowl.
Wow.
Do you care to take a guess? And by the way, they have the fourth highest winning percentage of the 16.
So teams that haven't won the Super Bowl are the Lions, and they're not into that category. The Browns are not in that category. The Jaguars aren't in that category, obviously. I want to say the Vikings. I'm going to say the
Bingo.
Vikings.
And that's why you're a professional.
Boom!
You're a professional. That is
and hey,
all of them. Yeah, it's just one of those weird stats I saw, and I'm like, you know what? I'm holding on to that, and I'm using it when I go on the show.
Yeah. You know what? You didn't give me any
amazing,
hints.
Right?
You didn't give me a heads up.
No.
You didn't set that up. I'm just that damn smart, T-Roy.
That's what it is. I think it's all the time you spend with Pat. It makes you smarter.
You know what? Here's the way I look at that. And this is going to be mean, but if I'm going to go to a beach, I'm going to go with maybe a heavy set buddy so that I look better on the beach. I think that's what happens when Pat and I are on. I go on with Pat so I look less dumb when he's on as well.
Yeah.
So, any other fun facts?
No, that was it. Maybe I'll have one for you next week.
I want one every time. You got to find one. I want one every single time.
I didn't want to overload you with a bunch of my dumb little things that I collect in my brain off the internet. So.
T-Roy, I am not kidding you. This was a ton of fun. I'm excited for the .08 draft. I think it's going to be great. We're going to continue that every week. I can't wait to do the remote. We'll get more information, people on that as soon as we can as well. And then also in general, like this reminds me of listening to the Hassle days, the don't hassles for locals. So this was fun. We're going to have you on several times. I appreciate you finally, breaking the ice and coming on to the, off the air with Matt Randazzo. I appreciate you.
Well, hey, I've got to make it in studio one of these days too. I've seen videos of the studio, and it looks amazing.
Yes, so. We'll get you in here real soon. So next week we'll do the same thing and be ready for 7 through 12-ish, I think, or something like that. Maybe 11.
Yeah, I'll get you through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll get you through the 49ers, and then the Cowboys start off the next week.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. He is T-Roy. Yep. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week, buddy.
All right, buddy. You take care.
All right. Thanks, bud. That was a ton of fun. It was. Obviously, those guys did an awesome thing for a couple of years here in the Quad Cities. Listened to them a ton. So it was fun to hear T-Roy's voice once again here in the Quad Cities. And we're going to have fun with that. And we're excited about that as well. Now that I'm kind of secure with running things here in the studio, if you will, aka my loft, we're going to venture out and about, and hopefully the first one's going to be on April 25th. My good friend Dane Miller, who's helped me out with all this engineering stuff, is probably listening to this right now going, son of a bitch, I think Dazzo has me trying to do something again. So yeah, Dane, I'm going to be calling. So we should have a ton of fun with that. Hopefully that all works out well as we get ready for the NFL draft. It's 36 days away, which is really, really, really cool. So it has been a fun show. Before we let you go, I want to remind everybody of this. Go to my social media. Check out the Off the Air Bracket Challenge. Thanks to my sponsors, 3 of my sponsors, Godfather's Pizza, Snoop's Chips and Salsa, and Hungry Hobo. Great Winners Package involves specialty pizza, chips and salsa and enchiladas, and then a gift card to Hungry Hobo, so you will eat well if you win it. And here's the thing. To get in the pool, it costs you absolutely nothing. I would appreciate you subscribing to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo on YouTube. That is always encouraged, but it costs you absolutely nothing to get involved. So go fill out a bracket. We are, less than 24 hours away to the start of the official March Madness. I don't count the stuff last night and tonight as the March Madness stuff, but it'll all start up tomorrow, and we're all looking forward to it. So get online. It's going to be a crappy afternoon, crappy evening, rain. They're talking snow as well and a bunch of different stuff. So jump online, go to CBS Sports. The link's up there on my social media. Fill out a bracket. And nothing to lose. That's what I always say. So it was a fun show today. Tom Kakert off the top of the show talking about the Iowa coaching search because, as of right now, there is no head basketball coach at the University of Iowa. They swung and they missed with Darren DeVries. Is it Ben McCollum or bust? If you missed it, go check out Tommy at the start of the show. An interesting name that he brought up. Kind of a fun name. Not a name he's reporting or anything like that, but a fun name to throw out there and think of. So go check that out early in the show if you missed that as well. Also, Jake Brend, awesome with the Cyclones. We wish Bill Finley and the Lady Cyclones the best of luck tonight. They play, I believe, 6 o'clock. I want to say ESPN U against Princeton. So go check out Iowa State. They are 3.5-point favorites, which I think I will be investing on Iowa State this evening. And then also just had a blast with T-Roy. One of the dudes from the Don't Hassle We're Local show back from the Quad Cities a few years ago. We started our .08 mock draft with T-Roy, which is a lot of fun. So we will kind of focus on the NFL draft as the March Madness winds down in the next couple weeks and get ready for the NFL draft. On tomorrow's show, Rob Brooks, the voice of the Iowa women, will join us to talk about the Iowa women's basketball team as they get ready to go to Oklahoma and take on, I got to think off the top of my head. Who do they play round 1? I should have it written down. They have a first-round game on Friday. So we will find out what he thinks of that game and a possible matchup with Oklahoma coming up tomorrow on the show. And then also super excited to welcome Bettendorf native, Bettendorf grad, former Hawkeye, and now new head football coach at Central Michigan, Matt Drinkle, will be on the show tomorrow as well. So super excited about tomorrow's show. Make note that around 11:15, 11:20 tomorrow, the show is probably going to get done a little early because I'm going to go down and watch some basketball. So maybe shorter shows the next couple of days as March Madness gets into full swing. But it's been a fun week so far this week as well. So make sure you're checking out the shows from the past. Brian Stocking was on yesterday, all that good stuff. So it's been a fun first 3 days here on Don't Hassle. Oh, geez, I said Don't Hassle, We're Local on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. And we got a lot more to get to throughout the week. Thank you guys for watching wherever you're watching at. We will see you back here tomorrow on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo.